Good morning, everyone. My name is Katie Weldon, and I'm the Programming Director for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce. And I want to welcome you to our Ask the Expert financial support for your small business, featuring Lance Foster with the Small Business Administration, Vickie Rivers with Renaissance Community Loan Fund, and Stephen O'Mara with Southern Mississippi Planning and Development District. The goal of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce is to connect, inform, advocate, and develop. And if this is your first time attending one of our events, I want to welcome you and ask that you consider joining our chamber. The benefits are endless, and as they say, when you invest in yourself, you never lose. So more information on our benefits can be found on our website, mscoastchamber.com, or give our office a call. We'd be happy to chat with you at 228-604-0014. I would like to thank our sponsors for today's event. You can see over here, Hancock Whitney, Memorial, and Island View Casino and Resort. And at this time, we will now hear from our sponsors.
To the people stepping up in the face of an unprecedented challenge, we say thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing to serve our communities and keep us safe. To the people of Hancock Whitney, thanks for being the ones our clients can count on. The comforting face in the window, the trusted advisor, getting it done for the people we serve. Because even though it feels like everything has changed right now, it's reassuring to see that some things haven't.
I'm Heather.
I'm RJ.
I'm Sinead.
I'm Stephen with Hancock Whitney.
I'm Zanae with Hancock Whitney, and I'm here to help.
We'll get through this the same way we always do, together.
Thank you so much to our sponsors. And of course, our sponsor for today's event, Island View Resort and Casino, that can be found in Gulfport. Beautiful facilities and always a great supporter of the Chamber of Commerce for us. We use them for their facilities, and also they serve on our board. So we really appreciate Island View for all that they do for the Chamber. Before we dive into our presentations, just a couple of housewarming things. I mentioned this before, but the mission of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce is to connect, inform, advocate, and develop. And we're able to do that through events such as these. And thanks to our sponsors, we were able to offer our Ask the Expert series complimentary. And we also are recording. So if you know someone who is unable to miss, be sure to check out our YouTube page, Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce. If you're new to Zoom, if you hover over the screen, if you're on a laptop, you'll see at the bottom there's a Q&A box. Any questions you have, please use that. You can also submit your questions anonymously. We just ask that you don't put any personal or identifying information in those questions. To make sure you get the full experience of this event, please make sure when you send a chat, you send it to all panelists and attendees. Make sure if you're on your phone that you go to our Facebook page, check into the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce and check into this event to prove to your boss that you did something productive to better yourself today. Join us for our upcoming events. Tracy's putting those in the chat right now, with our next Ask the Expert happening February 19th, which will be all about resources for your restaurant. Tracy also just posted a link to a survey that will help guide us into better serving you, whether you're a member or not. It takes just 5 to 7 minutes, and the link can be found in the chat box right there. She just posted it. Thank you, Tracy. I would now like to welcome our CEO, Ms. Adele Lyons, this morning. Good morning, Adele.
Good morning. Thank you, Lance, Vickie, Stephen, for your time. This is going to sound crazy, but this subject is near and dear to my heart, and that sounds like weird that somebody likes small business financing so much. But that's really where I started out, working with the Small Business Development Center, and And then that's a small business incubator. And I just think, how many business plans did we help people write? How many loan packages? And how many times did we get the question, where do I get money to start my business? And so, or really to fund my business, not just start up. And so we thank y'all for spending some time today, giving us your expertise about the subject matter. Having a thriving business community is good for our entire community. And a lot of times, it's the financing to keep those businesses growing and opening and prosper. So I appreciate y'all's time today. And thank you so much. And thanks for continuing to do the work that I love. I miss it a little bit. So thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Adele. Our Ask the Expert program is designed for professionals to gain insight from top leaders in the industry on hot topic issues and best business practices. And, I was speaking with them earlier, Vickie, Lance, and Stephen. Like, the real goal of this is you have the opportunity to ask these questions to an expert that you may not ever have the opportunity to, or may not know the resources to do that. So please ask your questions. We'll answer all of them at the end, whether they're for one specific person or for all of them. Now is your chance to get those questions answered. And a special thanks to, of course, Vickie, Lance, and Stephen for taking the time out this morning to speak with us and providing so many helpful resources to our community, just really keeping up with all that, so some of us don't have to. So on that note, we will start with Ms. Vickie Rivers from Renaissance Community Loan Fund. Good morning, Vickie.
Good morning, Katie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us today. So I'm going to start out. Katie, you want me to go and just share my screen?
Absolutely.
There we go. So as Katie said, today is about financial support for your small business. And that's what we like to think that we are, is an extra resource for you and support for you and your business. So as Katie said, I'm Vickie Rivers with Renaissance Community Loan Fund. I'd like to tell you a little bit about who we are, and I'm only going to spend a few minutes on that because there's so much more information that I want to share with you. But we are what we like to refer to as a different kind of lender. What that is, we're a community development financial institution, or a CDFI. And what that is in a nutshell, is that we're a non-depository, not-for-profit lender. So we don't have deposits. We're not a bank. We are a loan fund, and we service the entire state of Mississippi with both business loans, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today, and homeownership loans. But we can talk about those on another day. So at Renaissance, we are an SBA Community Advantage lender on our business side. We're also an SBA micro lender, and we are a PPP lender, both first and second advance loans. Most of you are probably aware that we had the PPP program to come out, I think maybe late March, early April, and it ran through August, I believe August 5th. And the program has just reopened for some borrowers to get a second advance. And for those who had not yet gotten a first advance, they can come in now and get a first advance. And we're going to talk in more detail on that in just a few minutes. We're also a GAP lender in partnership with other local banks, with Stephen at the district. That's one thing that I love about this environment that we're in. We all work so well together. We know each other very well. We know each other's products and how we can team up and help you as the small business people, which is really what our entire goal is. So when I say a GAP lender, it might be that you've got a bank relationship and your bank is willing to make you a loan, but they might want to limit their loan to value. And that means that you've got to come up with more cash down, or can borrow less than what you maybe really would like to have. And that's where Renaissance can come in and fill that gap, where you would do your bank loan. Renaissance would come behind them and make an additional loan to you to fill that gap. We have very flexible underwriting, flexible terms, and long-term fixed rate financing. So since we're not a bank, we're not as heavily regulated as the banks, and we really are here to fill the need that's left for businesses and borrowers who might not be quite ready for a bank loan. So we can do loans to startups and existing businesses. And then an additional thing that we bring to the table is that there is ongoing technical assistance tailored to the individual small business owner's needs. So technical assistance is really just training and mentorship and that type of thing. So let's talk a little bit about the Paycheck Protection Program, and in particular, the second draw. So if you are a small business and you were able to get an application in and get approved for PPP funding, you'll remember that that was PPP stands for Paycheck Protection Program. And the ultimate goal of it was for you to be able to keep your employees employed and to pay their salaries. So now, you know, everybody thought, I think initially, that the coronavirus was going to be a short-term thing, and then we would go on about our business as usual. And we have found, we were talking about this before everybody joined, about how it's really beginning to appear that this is going to be a very long-term situation that we deal with. So in that respect, the legislatures have come and extended and passed some new laws, and they have reopened the PPP loan program to allow some borrowers to get an additional draw. And if you did not get one on the first quarter, you are eligible to apply for the second quarter. So the eligibility for the second draw is you must be able to demonstrate that you had a 25% gross revenue reduction in at least one quarter of 2020 compared to that same quarter in 2019. That's the general. There are some other specific examples, like, for example, if you weren't open for the entire year of 2019, there's some one-offs on that. But traditionally, it's going to be one quarter, at least 25% gross revenue below the other. And the reason for that is that the legislators felt that if you didn't have a 25% revenue reduction, that you're probably okay, and you probably wouldn't need the resources as badly as someone who suffered just terrible losses during that term. For example, some of the things that come to mind obviously are restaurants, because a lot of them had to close altogether. Salons were hit so hard because they were not allowed to be open at all. Some of the restaurants could go and kind of reconfigure the way they did business, and were still able to do some business, maybe through carry out or delivery or something like that. But the salon owners, there was nothing that they could do. They were closed. And so that's what the program is intended to be. Now, once you get those funds, the funds are potentially forgivable. They do say that at least 60% of the proceeds have to be used toward payroll expenses, and then the other 40% can be used for other non-payroll expenses. And in this second round, or actually it's probably a third round, but anyway, in this round, there is an expansion in what the other eligible expenses are, to include stuff like protection equipment, supplier costs, accountings, purchasing perishable goods, that kind of thing. So that is an expansion of how you can spend the funds, but you still must use at least 60% of it for salary expense. And you can use it anywhere from 8 to a 24-week covered period. That's up to you as to how long it takes you to go through those funds. The rest of the eligibility, you have to have been in business on February 15th, 2020 and still be in business. The maximum loan amount this time is $2 million. Last time it was $10 million. RCL Renaissance is approved to do PPP loans up to $250,000. And the reason for that is because we're able to do the PPP loans under our Community Advantage 7A program. And so our loan limit there is $250,000. Now, for most borrowers, the amount, how it is calculated is you determine what your average monthly payroll expenses are, and then you multiply that by 2.5. That's the same as how we did it the first round. The only difference is that some industries, which is the restaurant and the accommodation industries, or any business that has an NAICS code and NAICS code beginning with 72, that's basically restaurants and hospitality, motel, hotel, that kind of thing. They can get 3.5 times this time. The max number of employees that a business can have is 300. This is decreased from the 500 in round one. And there is an exception to this rule for the restaurant and the accommodation industry. Now, one thing that I do want to stress is, there are an awful lot of what we call really small businesses that are non-employer firms, meaning that, they're sole proprietors, they're partnerships, maybe it's just them and their partner, they're an LLC, it's a sole member LLC. And so there's not any salary expense, you would think, because you're not, you're not holding out taxes and cutting yourself a check as salary expense every month. But for those, you are eligible for these as long as you reported a net profit. So that's how it's determined, based on your net profits from your IRS 1040 and Schedule C or K1, whatever, however it is you file. You can qualify for that. It's based on what the net profits were. Now, one of the problems that we had and continue to have is that some businesses actually end up showing a net loss for particular periods of time. And unfortunately, if you did not have any employees and you're not paying salaries and you did not show a net profit, then you would not be eligible for any PPP funds. In the first round, if a borrower got an EIDL advance, and by EIDL, that's Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Those are the loans that SBA was doing directly. And you recall that they were doing what they call emergency advances for up to $10,000. And in the first round of forgiveness, they were deducting the amount that you got in that emergency advance from your forgiveness. They are no longer doing that. And they also have streamlined and very much simplified the forgiveness process for these loans, to where basically loans below $150,000 have a very simplified form. You don't have to provide the documentation for the forgiveness. You have to retain the documentation, but you just make certifications that you spent the money for the desired purposes. And I know I'm using my time, so I'm going to move very, very quickly. There is a section of the new law that has to do, it's called Section 1112 payments. And basically what that is, that's where the SBA will make payments, principal and interest payments for the borrowers for a specific period of time. They did that already in the first round. They paid 6 months worth of principal and interest payments to any microloan, any community advantage loan, or any 7A loan. And for 504 loans, I think they paid one of the payments on the 504 loans. They will begin making payments again for microloan, and community advantage gets the first priority. As long as your loan was approved before March 27th, 2020, they'll make an additional 8-month period with next payment beginning February of this year. So those should be coming. For 7A, 504, and microloans approved beginning on March 27th and ending on September 27th, you may receive additional payments if there are sufficient funds. Now, I will stop here to say that I attended a training session with some of the top leadership with SBA, and according to their modeling that they have done, they're indicating that there is not going to be sufficient funds to take care of everything that was legislated. So our hope is that there'll be more money funded toward that, and that everyone who was intended to get this in the legislation will actually receive it, but there could be some delay in that. And then for a new 7A, 504, or microloan, starting February 1st and ending on September 30th, subject to availability of funds, the SBA will make 6 regular loan payments for that as well. So that is a huge benefit that the government has. So there are a number of programs out there, and this is just kind of an overview that most of you have probably heard of, but this is just a little graphic to help you decide which would be a better option for you, because in some cases you can't do both, or you can't do all 3. So there's the PPP there, and then there's going to be a grant program that's called the Shattered Venue Operation Grant Program. And in that program, you have to certify that you are not going to take a PPP advance in this second draw. So, and SBA's done some webinars on that. It's a pretty generous program. I'm not going to get into specifics on that. Maybe Lance will have more information, but just be aware and shuttered venues are like, for example, what comes to mind is a movie theater or a live music venue. For example, the little theaters, those places that have been shuttered really since the beginning and haven't been able to come back, then there is some grants, and that's based on average revenues, I think. And then there's the emergency disaster loan, which I think they are taking applications for those again. They are not taking applications for the advances. Now, they are doing the targeted EIDL. I'm going to give a little bit of history to this very quickly so I can let the others speak. But when the program first came out, it was kind of widely advertised and promoted that even if you did not qualify for the disaster loan, because those disaster loans are partly reliant upon your credit. And they said that even if you didn't qualify for the loan, you would get a $10,000 grant. Well, as time went on, we learned that it really wasn't a $10,000 grant. It was $1,000 for every employee that you had. So if you were a small business and had 3 employees, you were given a $3,000 grant rather than the $10,000 grant. And then we found out that, oh yeah, and if you got that $3,000 or that $10,000, we're going to subtract that from your PPP loan forgiveness because that's double dipping. And so now there was a lot of pushback on that, both from the banking institutions and borrowers, that, you know, that really wasn't the intended purpose. So what SBA has done now is that if a borrower received an EIDL advance already and they got less than $10,000 and they are located in a low income census tract and they did their loan before December, let me back up. They got the EIDL assistance before, the SBA will send them an invite to apply to get the $10,000 that was originally reported. I hope that's clear. It's a little bit confusing. But then they also said that the borrowers who applied for assistance before December 20th but didn't receive an EIDL advance, those will be the second priority group. So it's one of those things, again, where as long as funds are available. So to be eligible for this EIDL target advance, you cannot apply for this on your own. You have to wait for SBA to send you the invite. They have the list. They know who you are. But it will be to borrowers located in a low-income census tract, businesses with 300 or less employees. You have to be able to document that you had a revenue reduction of over 30% during any 8-week period beginning March 2nd. So be on the lookout for that. If you got an EIDL advance, and look, I'll tell you, a lot of people just had a deposit show up in their bank account from Treasury and they had no idea what it was. And it ended up being that it was these emergency advances because you had applied for a disaster loan. Based on the number of employees you said you had, that's how much they gave you. This is in the slide deck. We are a micro lender. I kind of go over some of the guidelines here. Micro loans are not SBA guaranteed loans, but SBA loans us a pool of money, and then we turn around and lend it to micro borrowers. That's for loans for $50,000 and under. SBA lets us determine what our credit criteria is. We don't have to submit it to them for approval, so we can be much more forgiving on some issues that traditionally might prohibit you from getting a loan. You might very well be eligible for a microloan. And remember that as long as there's sufficient funding and you take a new microloan out now, the hope and the expectation is that the SBA will be making a number of your first payments for you, assuming that funds exist. So I'm just going to quickly go over these slides. These are, we have several business lenders. That's me in the middle, Janice Marsh and Ronnie Emil. We're all the commercial lenders. We've got John Michael Marlin up in Tupelo. We also have an office in Jackson. So we cover the entire state of Mississippi. We're here to help you, to answer your questions. Even if you don't borrow any money, if we can give you any assistance, we'll be glad to. We'd like for you just to consider us as an additional tool in the tool belt. We're here for you if we can help. Here's our contact information. And listen, I know this was a lot to cover in a very short period of time. I hope I didn't go too fast, and I hope I didn't confuse everybody, but you can give me a call, shoot me an email. Katie, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. Such a wonderful venue. We so much enjoy our partnership with the Chamber and everything that you all do for all of us.
Of course, and like I said earlier, we're just so appreciative of you and everybody at Renaissance Community Loan Fund for always supporting us and just being a resource and a shoulder we can lean on. So thank you so much for that very informative presentation. Any questions for Vickie or any of our panelists, you can ask those and we'll get to all of those at the end. So on that note, I will now like to turn it over to SMPDD. We have Stephen O'Mara. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning. Thank you, Katie. Thanks for having us. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen O'Mara. I'm the loan program manager at Southern Mississippi Planning and Development District. SMPDD is a planning and development district. The state is divided up into 11 planning and development districts by county. And SMPDD it represents the bottom 15 counties of the state. We are a private nonprofit. We're not a governmental entity, which is, I know is confusing with the name, but that is the case. We just receive federal and state funding to do the work that we do. And there are lots of things that we do that I know enough to be dangerous about that have nothing to do with the small business world that I'm not even going to get into. But my little world is the small business lending part of our organization. And in that, in my area, we receive funding from the Economic Development Administration and the Mississippi Development Authority to administer 4 revolving loan funds. As much as we love SBA and Lance, we are not part of the SBA, and that's a common misconception as well. We do not participate in any of their programs, even though we coordinate with them a lot on some deals as far as passing information back and forth. And we're not affiliated with any specific bank, even though we do partner with any bank in our 15 county area that might provide funding to a business that we're providing financing for as well. So Renaissance and SMPDD do similar work outside of the SBA related work that Vickie mentioned in terms of just general business financing. We provide loans up to $500,000 for startup, existing, expanding businesses, with the goal being job creation or retention. So we don't finance investment property, just strictly investment property, or we don't do any debt refinancing where someone's trying to lower a rate or pay off a balloon balance. So the purposes that can be used with our funds are anything business related: real estate, whether it's a purchase, expansion of a structure for a business, machinery, equipment purchase, inventory financing, working capital, any business purpose that is stated. Our different funds all have different components to them, and I don't like to get into the details of each fund because that's really our job to do. When someone applies with us, a business is just applying with SMPDD to borrow funds from us for their business. And then once we look at the deal, we will decide how to fund it, whether it comes from MDA funds or EDA funds or a combination of both. But in terms of actual loan, it's a cookie cutter loan. We loan up to 15 years on real estate, 7 to 10 years on machinery and equipment. So nothing very fancy there. But as Vickie mentioned, similar to Renaissance, we don't fall under the regulations that banks do or credit unions do. So we do have some flexibility to get deals done. And a big part of that is when it comes to collateral. We do require collateral. However, we will loan more of a percentage of that collateral value than a bank would, and they're limited in their regulatory environment in doing so. But also, we're willing to take a subordinate position behind another lender, which a bank would never do, rightfully so. But we're willing to do that to help businesses and get deals done for these businesses. So even we do partner with the banks a lot and providing that financing, partner with Renaissance as well, or we can do standalone financing in addition to that. Any CARES or Corona specific financing that we've provided, we did receive a CARES Act award, RLF award from the Economic Development Authority in the amount of $8 million. And what they did was loosen some of our internal guidelines to help us get that money out quicker on the street. And I tell you, it went really fast. That money's either already loaned out or is already committed. And hadn't gotten any word yet if another round of that is coming for organizations like ourselves. We also offered just across the board 2-month payment, basically a waiver for every single business in our portfolio. So not only did we not charge them the principal for those 2 months, we basically turned the interest clock off for those 2 months. And the interest is waived for those 2 months in essence, and the principal will be repaid on the back end of the loan. And then anything beyond that, we just handle on a case-by-case basis, depending on that business's impacted, how that business was impacted by the pandemic. We do, start with an application process. We do have an application on our website, and I'll put all our information in the chat box when I get done. But from there, we're going to look at a lot of stuff that a bank would look at, and analyze whether we like the deal itself, and then if we do, what's the backup plan should the business not be able to pay us back. So with that, I do want to just mention a few businesses that just to give you an idea. First of all, with Renaissance, and these are deals that have already been put out in certain various types of media, so we're not violating any kind of privacy in telling these businesses. But we partnered with Renaissance on a tire and automotive repair shop in downtown Gulfport recently, and also partnered with Renaissance in providing financing for the Betsy Ann Riverboat in Biloxi. We partnered with a local bank to do some funding for Chandelier Brewing in downtown Gulfport. And another recent loan is the Epitome Cigar Shop in the mall. It was a purchase with an ownership change. We provided financing for that. So just to give you some ideas of some deals that we look at. But the main message I want to get across is, just like Vickie said, if you have a question, call us. Don't get confused by any information you might read on our website or anything we might put out there and think, oh, well, I'll never qualify for that. Because we see that from time to time. People won't call us because they think they won't be able to qualify. But please don't do that. Just contact us and just ask a question as well. And if we need to seek additional financing from a bank or Renaissance, we're happy to serve that role as well. So with that, I will end my presentation and look forward to any questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And I put y'all's website, email address,
Great.
and phone number in the chat, so you don't need to worry about that.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you again, Stephen. And now I will turn it over to the Small Business Administration, Lance Foster, who is in the Gulfport office. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Lance.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see the slides.
Okay, awesome. So I got some good news. I got some bad news. The good news is that Vickie has so eloquently covered a lot of what I was going to talk about, and I thank you for that, Vickie. The bad news is it's a myriad of information. It's quite thick. So the real intent here is to kind of get just some of the basic information out. So don't let the slides mislead you, because they are a little text heavy, and that's by necessity, unfortunately. But it's like Katie was saying, if you want further information, by all means, take advantage of that email address, give us a call. We can talk a little bit more in depth about some of these programs, especially the ones that are currently rolling, such as the EIDL program and the PPP loan program. My name is Lance Foster. I'm the branch manager of the SBA's Gulfport Branch office. Tiny little office. We have 12 coastal counties here on the coast, just 3 employees. I should probably make it known at this time, we are not in the office. We have not been working in the office since probably last April, and I have no idea when we're going to return. So if you do go down there and you see signs in the door, that's why. But you can still call us. We can still effectively help you virtually. So by all means, take advantage of that. Like I was saying, we have 12 coastal counties here on the coast, but we also have a district office in Jackson. So independent of where you reside in the state of Mississippi, you can leverage the assistance of the district office in Jackson or the Gulfport Branch office. Our mission is simply to assist small business. We provide counseling and training opportunities. We administer the SBA loan programs and facilitate government contracting. The SBA guarantee loan is pretty simple. You, the borrower, you need capital. You use a bank in most cases that provides that capital. And through the SBA guarantee, it serves as a surrogate insurance policy, as we call it. We help mitigate any loss to the lender while providing additional services to the borrower. But at the end of the day, it's really to help a borrower acquire capital that they might not otherwise have qualified for using traditional means. Our flagship program is the 7A loan program. I've highlighted some basic parameters of that loan program, but it goes up to $5 million. We have the SBA Express loan program, which in most cases operates as a working line of credit, and the use of proceeds are very similar to 7A. We also have our CDC 504 loan program, which is a three-part loan between a CDC certified development lender. We have two in the state, a commercial lender of the borrower's choosing, and the SBA funds a portion of the debenture, which helps fund the loan. We do not have a grant program. However, that's a little bit of a misnomer because we've got a new program coming out pretty soon, which we'll talk about here in a second. But typically, we don't offer grants for startups or existing businesses. Typically, there's no 100% financing. Again, we have a little bit of that right now, so we're contradicting ourselves a little bit, but this is under normal non-COVID circumstances. Keep in mind that financing can take extended periods of time, so please be patient. And if you're denied for a loan by one lender, by all means, we encourage you to apply at other lenders. There's nothing in the rule book that prevents you from doing that. If you have any issues with your business plan or unfamiliar with some of the responses you're getting from your lender, by all means, give us a call and we can help interpret some of that for you. So we're going to concentrate our efforts here a little bit on the COVID-19 economic aid funding options. As like Vickie was saying, we have the PPP loan program. There's the debt relief. It's for current 7A, 504, and microloans, the EIDL economic injury disaster loan, and yet to be unveiled. It's still being formulated and it should be out soon, but there's the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. So the PPP program extends. Recently, we've expanded PPP eligibility and how funds can be used. If you vaguely recall, we had round one of PPP back in the summer. This really constitutes round two. But now a borrower can select a covered period that goes between 8 and 24 weeks. Okay, we offer a second draw to PPP for the hardest hit small businesses. So it's more of a targeted focus this time around. It has some different parameters in terms of eligibility, which we'll cover. It allows for the deduction of expenses that are covered with forgiven PPP loan debt on federal taxes. So in essence, you're getting a double dip on this, all right? We've updated and simplified forgiveness forms to include PPP loans of up to $150,000. And as of now, 86% of all PPP loans were under $150,000. No longer subtracts the EIDL advance from the PPP loan forgiveness amount. So you get the advance, we will not be subtracting that from the PPP eligibility or your forgiveness amount. We've also included new types of entities that are eligible. We have expanded covered eligible expenses. Borrowers can set the covered period, like I was saying, between 8 and 24 weeks. And certain borrowers may request, I say may request, an increase to their original PPP loan amount. Okay, you must have been in business by February 15th of 2020, and you must apply on or before March 31st of 2021, or until congressional appropriations are exhausted. So if the funds run out before March 31st, the program will end, will sunset. The newly eligible entities that can apply for PPP, housing cooperatives, which is typically SBA's traditional loan programs do not make these types of entities eligible. So a lot of this is new to us, but there's destination marketing organizations, certain 501c6 organizations such as Chambers of Commerce, eligible news organizations, and of course, your standard sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed individuals, and so forth. But we've also added 501c3 and 19 veterans organizations, nonprofits, and tribal businesses. For the second draw PPP loan eligibility, some additional eligibility criteria. You have or will use the full first draw PPP loan amount only for eligible expenses before the second draw PPP loan is dispersed. Okay, you can have no more than 300 employees, But unlike last time, in this round, you have to demonstrate a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. And it's my understanding that it can be any quarter used for the evidence. So how do you apply? You find a PPP lender, and there are lots of them, including non-traditional lenders. We've seen a bevy of new lenders that we've never done business before standing up to participate in this program. And you can find those lenders on SBA.gov through Lender Match, or you can simply give us a call and we can get you squared away and hooked up with a couple. Okay, you'll complete the application, which is all done through the bank, and then the lender is going to submit it through a newly created portal that the lender and the SBA manage, and eventually SBA will issue a loan number. I want to point out to y'all that because this new portal is very new, I'm here from my desk anyway, we don't have access to that portal. We don't see the application process like we do with our other loan programs. So it is a little bit of a bottleneck right now. So if your lender is telling you they have not been issued an application number, please be patient. You have to keep in mind that this loan program is national. Okay, this isn't regionalized to Mississippi. That portal is being used all over the country. Some other parameters: loan terms and maturity for PPP loans. They have a fixed interest rate of 1% that is non-compounding and non-adjustable with a $2 million max, okay? This is one of the few times you're going to see a commercial loan that is non-compounding, right? There's no requirement for collateral or even personal guarantees. There's no fees or prepayment penalties, okay? 5-year maturity for those before June 5th, 2020, it's 2 years. However, at this time, you can ask your lender to extend that to 5 years. Payments will start once the borrower knows how much of the PPP loan will be forgiven, and lender will obviously notify the borrower. So, communication between the borrower and the bank is critical here, all right? If borrowers do not apply for forgiveness, payments will start 10 months after the last day of the covered period. The EIDL loan, the economic aid extends the deadline to December 31st, 2021, and the use of proceeds are for working capital, normal operating expenses such as continuation of healthcare benefits, rent, utilities, and fixed debt payments. One thing I want to point out is that you cannot expand your business using these proceeds, all right? Terms are pretty simple. The cost of borrowing is fairly low at 3.75% for businesses, and for nonprofits, 2.75%. And it's a fixed rate at 30 years. Like I said, no prepayment penalty. And loans over $25,000 secured by a UCC filing, and $100 will be deducted from the loan proceeds for that filing. All right. Eligibility is qualified small businesses, cooperatives, and agricultural enterprises with 500 or fewer employees, or as defined as small per SBA size standards, and private nonprofits. Targeted EIDL advance. This is the advance that was given, like Vickie mentioned earlier, to particular firms based on the number of employees they had. Okay, they're going to balance out the previous EIDL advance to the full $10,000 if the business is in a low-income community, has suffered greater than a 30% economic loss, and has fewer than 300 employees. So those who applied for the EIDL advance but didn't receive funds due to lack of funding will receive the full $10,000 if they meet the same requirements above and per targeted EIDL advance funding availability. So here's the cool thing: is the SBA is going to reach out to those who may qualify via email with instructions to determine eligibility and submit documentation, which really means that you can sit back on your laurels and wait for the cavalry to arrive. You don't have to pursue this per se. The SBA has a long list, and they intend to go through that list and start sending those email outs. So if you get an email from SBA wanting you to submit some additional information, please do so in a timely manner, because I would imagine it's also going to be bottlenecked. The things you're going to need to verify your eligibility and submit for this $10,000 is going to be a 2019 federal tax return. So, it's recommended that you have that stuff ready to go. Okay, your EIN and Social Security number was what they're going to use as specified in the original EIDL application. So the monthly gross receipts for 19 and 20 and completed months in 2021. So have your information current. They're going to confirm this information in the original EIDL application as long as it's still accurate, and changes may require a manual review and documentation. So there is a little bit of leeway for some adjustments and explanation should clarity need to be addressed. Applicants that pass the initial eligibility requirement will be required to sign a 4506T, which is an IRS tax verification form, so that SBA can obtain the tax transcripts before the agency can approve the targeted EIDL advance. It's a very simple form. Not very hard to do either. Only one submission is allowed for each targeted EIDL advance. Though, we're going to carefully review the bank account information. Make sure that you have a business checking account. I cannot tell you how many times we've had issues with folks who are using their personal checking account for their business operation, and it caused problems. So this is just one of the anecdotal things that I have noted, is that, make sure you have a business checking account, and also make sure that you've got the account information accurate, including the routing number, because one digit puts you back in the queue and, delay the disbursement of those funds. SBA's goal is to process completed applications within 21 days. So they've got a lofty goal here. We'll see if they can do it, but applications may not be considered complete until after the IRS Form 4506T is received. Okay, if you have any questions, we provided an email, targetedadvance@sba.gov. And if you are approved, you'll receive an email and ACH deposit to the bank account provided. Again, make sure you have a business checking account. This one is not rolled out yet, but this may be applicable to some folks that are on today's call. It's the Shutter Venue Operators Grant. Like I said, applications are not open yet, but you are going to have to register in SAM to be eligible for this. And SAM is basically a repository that we use to ensure that we're not doing business with those who have been barred from doing business with the federal government. But it's also used as a payment system for our contracting clients. So eligible entities are live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organizations, and so forth. So as you can see here, it is targeted towards those in the theatrical arts. There are some provisions that I'm not going to get into here, but once it rolls out, if you have specific questions and you think you are eligible, I encourage you to give me a call and we can discuss eligibility. You must have been in operation as of February 29, 2020. The venue or promoter must not have applied for or received a PPP loan on or after December 27, 2020. So the key is, if you received a PPP loan, that's fine. It just needs to have been before the holidays. We also have SBA-backed loan debt relief, and that's really for our current 7A and 504 borrowers, where SBA is subsidizing the P&I payments on those. We have distributed letters to eligible borrowers. As a sample letter can be found on our website. But you can talk to your lender if you haven't received any correspondence, to have them verify your eligibility. But in most cases, well, I'd say in all cases, eventually we're going to get letters out to everybody who is eligible. And really, that alleviates a short-term liability that your business would be otherwise facing, to help shore up your revenues and your cash flows. The key takeaways here, from the loan program perspective, we have the PPP program, debt relief for 7A. The grant programs, we've expanded pretty deeply on the idle advance and the soon-to-be Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. Some data here from last year. I do not have 2021 data together to this point because it's still coming in, and it's coming in droves and changing by the minute. So I want to concentrate on 2020. Last year, we did over 44,000 PPP loans in Mississippi under the CARES Act, which equated to about $1.2 billion in PPP lending. We did 31,000 economic injury disaster loans and $1.3 billion in idle disbursements. So Mississippi had a pretty good chunk of that pie. If you need any additional help, we offer all sorts of free online training at our website. We also have our Service Corps of Retired Executives, our Small Business Development Center, which offers free counseling and is located all over the state. I believe we have 7 locations. And also, obviously, the SBA's Gulfport Branch office, as well as the Jackson District office. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I know that was a lightning rod, high-speed information disbursement, but like I said, we can have a much slower paced conversation if you just want to reach out to us, and we'll try to get your needs addressed. Appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Lance, for joining us and for all of that information. And, I can't say it enough for each of you for keeping up with all those resources. So honestly, I don't have to. So thank you so much again. While we're waiting for some questions to come in, we do have a few in there, but I do want to remind everybody about our Ask the Expert, Show Me the Money Restaurant Resources Edition happening February 19th. That's a completely free event. This is going to feature John Prentice with Pilt Williams LaRosa and Company. He's a CPA. Brandon Atwell, the owner of Murky Waters, Susan Perkins with the Mississippi Coast Restaurant and Beverage Association, and our CEO for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce, Adele Lyons. And this event is really going to talk about stimulus funding through PPP, which we heard a little bit about today, Hurricane Zeta disaster funds, chamber grants, resources for free legal assistance, where to find trained staff. So if you know anybody in the restaurant business, or if you own a restaurant yourself, we highly recommend you come to this event happening February 19th, all virtual via Zoom, going to be at 8 a.m. You can register on our website at mscoastchamber.com. And I also put the link in the chat for you. So on that note, while we're waiting for more questions to come in, we'll go ahead and get started. And let's see, I think I'll turn this one over to Vickie. I'll just go in order of who presented, and then y'all can jump in, Stephen and Lance, if you want to answer as well. Do PPP loans cover paid sick leave?
Yes, they do.
You want to go ahead and answer that? Go ahead, Vickie. Go ahead.
Yeah, any type of payroll payment during your cover period is an eligible expense.
Lance, did you want to jump in too?
No, just take the words right out of my mouth.
That's teamwork right there. Perfect. Okay, next question. So Stephen, we'll start with you, and then Vickie and Lance, if you want to jump in afterwards. So how long is the approval process if they go through SMPDD?
Yeah, we work off of a monthly loan committee meeting. So, depending on where it falls in that time of the month when that meeting is going to take place. But as far as the most important part is the information being complete that we receive. So what takes the longest is there's always back and forth with the applicant. No matter how much information they provide on the front end, there's always something else that we need, questions we have. So I would a few weeks definitely at a minimum to really get a good package together to be able to present to the loan committee to where we fully understand the deal itself. And then it can grow from there depending on how complicated the transaction might be.
Sure. Lance, how long is the approval process through y'all?
As far as the standard loan programs?
Yes.
It can be fairly quick depending on the complexity of the loan, the nature of the request. Historically through the traditionally through the regular commercial lending programs, a lender can get a loan number in as fast as a day. Like I said, depending on, it's a loaded question, but depending on any number of factors, if it's a more complicated transaction, such as say a gas station, which requires a lot of environmental analysis, it can be pretty lengthy. I've seen loans go anywhere from 6 to 12 months in terms of the final approval process. But I've also seen them done in a matter of a couple of days. Wow. Again, it just depends on a lot, any number of factors.
Sure, Ms. Vickie.
Yeah, so I'll echo that. Really, a lot of it depends on the size and complexity of the deal. We do have an internal program that we call our fast track, and so if certain conditions are met, it can be very quick. So the smaller loans can be relatively quick, all depending upon what the level of backlog we have. I can say on the PPP loans in the first round, we could get a loan number, as Lance said, immediately. But under this round, the SBA says that they'll take anywhere from 2 days to 5 days for them to issue us a loan number. And then if there happens to be a hold on it, then, I've had some where SBA is trying to clear some database issues for a couple of weeks. So a very complex, large loan could take some time. It could take weeks, possibly even over a month. Again, depending if appraisals, title work, all those things need to be ordered. So it depends on the complexity and the size of the deal and how quickly the borrower provides us the information that we need. And Stephen's exactly right. We may start out asking for this much stuff, and then that brings up a question, and then we need a little bit more. So it's very individual.
Very true. So keep that in mind when you're doing this stuff that, it does not sound like it's a weekend deal. So we do have a question in the chat, and it says, Stephen, this is for you. How much collateral is needed from SMPDD?
Yeah, I like Lance's answer. That's a loaded question. Well, first of all, we don't do no portion can be unsecured. So every dollar we loan out has to be at the very minimum secured by $1 in collateral. However, rarely is it ever $1 for dollar. So with real estate, obviously you get more bang for your buck there because it holds its value over a longer period of time than say inventory does. you know, real estate, we usually look at loaning, we start at 90%, because we do require 10% equity in the loans that we provide. And then it goes down from there depending on collateral. You know, equipment would be the next step down, and then inventory would be the next step down. So I know that's kind of vague. I would say if there's a specific question for that, just call us and we can talk through it.
It's good to know. And their phone number is in the chat box too, and also on their website.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephen. And this next one, I'm not sure which one of you wants to take it. All three of you are more than welcome to answer, but they said, do you have to have income for the loan to start your business?
I can take that. That's pretty common at traditional lenders, is that they call that a secondary source of repayment. So where like you would, have to have either retirement income or employment income or something like that. We do not require that you have a secondary source of repayment. Of course, it's nice when you do, and it makes the deal less risky for all of us. However, we do make loans based on the projected revenues of the new business for a startup. Now, that being said, we're going to vet those very, very deeply. We're going to challenge you on convincing us that the business venture will generate enough revenue in the time period that you're projecting that it will. So I'm not going to say that it can be easily done, but it has been done. We do it. It's an interesting process. It requires patience, and it requires a lot of research on the borrower's part to really know what their product is, know who their target market is, how they're going to reach that target market, what their profit margin is, all of those things. So the simple answer is no, you don't have to have a secondary source of income, but it can be very challenging without that.
I'm sure. And thank you so much, Vickie, for being so knowledgeable in this stuff, in this area. We really appreciate it. Okay, last question, and we'll start off with Lance, and then each of you can answer. So Lance, does the SBA offer business counseling?
Absolutely. You can get that any number of ways through, primarily it's through our resource partners. We grant fund a really rather large network of counselors who either currently own businesses or in fact have owned businesses and previously owned businesses. And we have a network through the SBDC, MSBDC, which is, got locations at various schools throughout the state. We have a couple locations here on the coast, one in Hattiesburg and right here on the Gulf Coast, deep in the Gulf Coast. So yes, we provide that, and you can use that as much as you want. Like I said, you just have to make appointments, and it's a pretty robust little network that provides in-depth counseling on any number of topics that may be holding up a business's ability to formulate a business plan, for example.
Sure, absolutely. Stephen, how about y'all?
Sure, thank you. I would. This might sound like a politician's answer, really, but I mean, really, we don't in a formal sense, but every deal itself, really, it's kind of what you're doing in a way. But if it touches on any legal or accounting advice, obviously we don't get involved in that aspect of it. And if it requires a business plan, we do refer out to Small Business Development Center or SCORE or another organization that can assist with an actual formal business plan. But if it's general business questions, technical assistance, business related questions, then we'll be happy to field them. And if it gets out of our area of expertise, certainly can find the right plug-in to refer them to.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. And Ms. Vickie, how about you finish us up?
Sure. So that's a very large part of what we do. If you recall in my presentation, I said that's one of the things that kind of sets us apart from the traditional lenders. We do have a formal program for that. It is required on every one of our borrowers. And, you don't even have to be a borrower. For pre-application or pre-funding, very large part of what we do. The world has changed due to COVID. So, a lot of that is just like this, has to go virtual or telephone or that kind of thing. But yes, absolutely. And we do that primarily targeted to that individual business owner's needs. What is it that you're needing assistance with? Are you needing marketing assistance? Are you needing accounting, bookkeeping type assistance. We together identify what that is. And then if we need to bring additional resources to the table that's outside of our area of expertise, then we do that.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. That finishes up the Q&A portion of this event. This is being recorded. So like I said, if you know someone who really needs this information, this will be posted on our YouTube page, Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you all so much, Vickie, Stephen, Lance, for all of your information and for keeping up with all this. We really appreciate your support, and the Chamber just really appreciates all that you do for the community and for our members. I want to thank our sponsors for today's event, Hancock Whitney Memorial and Island View Casino Resort. Thank you all so much again for being with us today. And if you're interested in joining the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce, we would love to have you. More information can be found on our website, mscoastchamber.com. And please be sure you go on our website to register for our upcoming events. And you can find that on our website and also on our Facebook page. And on that note, I hope everybody stays dry today and throughout the week. It looks like it's going to get a little bit rainy. So make sure you have your umbrella and your rain jacket. And on that note, I hope everybody has a very happy Wednesday. Thank you all so much again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. You guys are great.
Of course, Lance. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Vickie. Bye, Stephen. Thank you all so much.
Take care.